So what? Folks in LA are going nuts.
Yeah.
Including me, because I get DirecTV and I can't get the PAC-12 network.
Well, I'm hoping DirecTV listens, and we were hoping for tonight's game, UCLA. The fans in LA were going to get it, so we're disappointed that they've not agreed to carry it. And we're hopeful that by next Saturday, when our first conference game on network, USC Cal, that they'll carry it.
Do you feel like you're that close?
Candidly, conversation not close right now. So I hope that they listen to their customers, our fans, and decide to carry it.
Not close, you said right now? It's not close?
Not at the moment. I wouldn't characterize it as close, unfortunately. But a lot happened quickly with Dish when they heard from their customers. And they turned on in time for last weekend's game, and I think that showed that two things: that there's a lot of interest in the programming, and it's a fair offer. We've got over 40 cable companies that are signed on, and Dish is signed on. So
is the Cal SC game on your network only? It's not going to be Fox or ESPN?
Correct. So the games that are on our network are exclusive to our network.
Yeah, I just checked.
Yeah. So today, for example, we've got three games featuring top 25 ranked teams. We had Oregon earlier today. We've got UCLA tonight and Arizona tonight. Next weekend, obviously, USC, Cal.
And so today, for sure, UCLA is not going to be on. Nothing's going to get done in the next couple hours, to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, yeah. Unfortunately. Yeah, we were hopeful. So we're doing everything we can, but there's so far I think what they've said publicly is they don't believe our fans need it, want it, and that they don't think it's a fair offer. But obviously 40 other companies feel differently, and their rival satellite broadcasters do. So they pride themselves being a leader in sports. So we hope that they're true to their vision, at least as far as Pac-12 fans and consumers go, and that they agree to take it.
It's only DirecTV, right? Is that the main one? Is that the only one left?
We've got 4 out of the top 5 video distributors carrying the network.
Okay,
Time Warner, Comcast, Cox, and Dish. 4 of the 5, and DirecTV is the only one missing. Actually, when you study all the other network launches, and I don't think there's an example where a network ever has everyone at launch. So we absolutely expected that some might take a wait and see approach. We looked at what the Big Ten did. I think it took them about a year till they got some of the big cable operators. Looked at the Mountain West, took them a year or two till they got major ones. So it's not uncommon at all. In fact, I think if you look at 40 cable operators that play Dish, ours would actually rank up there as one of the more successful launches of a new network. So I feel very good about where we're at, but we won't be satisfied until DirecTV signs on and others. And we did this for our fans. Our fans wanted to see the games, and we got a lot of fans that are on DirecTV. So we'll push as hard as we can push to get it done. AT&T has not signed on yet. We're hopeful that we have very good conversations going on with them, and we're hopeful that'll happen.
How about on the field? You got to be pleased with the start for the season.
Yeah, I sure am. Obviously, having 5 top 25 teams is great. Last week was a terrific week in terms of strong non-conference wins, and I think that's the kind of thing that starts to change the national perception of the conference. Over the last few years, obviously, we've had elite teams, 2 BCS Bowl teams each of the last 2 years, 3 top 10 teams. At the end of the last season, everyone knows Pac-12 goes toe-to-toe with any conference at the very top, and that we've got national championship contenders this season. But I think the question mark for our conference is, what's the depth in the middle and all that. So I'd say last week was a big statement for the conference, and really, I think sets the narrative for the rest of the season.
There's been a lot of media who lie about injuries this week. The reporter ban and then Washington. Could the Pac-12 any the way you have an injury report like the NFL does? Why doesn't college football do that? Wouldn't that kind of ease some of this tension between practice and privacy?
So I started asking some questions about this week. It had never popped up as an issue on my radar screen because each program, each school sets their own policy, and there hadn't been any issues to my knowledge. So I started asking the same questions when it popped up this week. And we have an athletic director meeting coming up in October, and I'm going to put this on the agenda at least to discuss as to whether we ought to leave it with each school decides the policy, or whether there ought to be some standards or some conference policy.
Yeah, it works for the NFL, right? I mean, that makes things so.
And we got some folks that worked for the NFL at the conference office, so we'll have that discussion. I frankly thought it would have been resolved by now. A little surprised it's taken as long as it's taking, but I can't predict exactly when it will resolve. I think all predictions up to now have been wrong, so I'll just stop predicting. And I don't know, so.
Larry, the schedule, of course, as you know, has already been made, but when you look at something like Stanford and Cal playing a big game in October, I mean, is that kind of something that shouldn't happen?
Yeah, it's. I know there's a lot of disappointed fans, and there's a great tradition around that. So we're hopeful that as we look to future schedules, we'll be able to avoid that situation going forward. When we moved from a 10-team league to a 12-team league and added the championship game, that took away a week. Took away a week of flexibility. We then tried to move all rivalry games to the last week of the regular season, which is Thanksgiving week. Cal and Stanford were the only schools to say we don't want to play Thanksgiving week. That wound up creating challenges, along with the fact that Notre Dame has been playing Stanford and USC Thanksgiving week. So there are various things we've had to juggle that created that situation, and we're hoping to avoid it going forward.
Getting back to the DirecTV issue, are there negotiations scheduled for this week? Are they kind of ongoing? Or?
Not at the moment. I mean, they know, they understand what we've done with cable partners. They understand what we've done with DirecTV. Ball's really in their court to decide if they want to carry it on the same terms as others that have agreed. It's over 40 others that have agreed to do it. So we're as surprised as some other people, because they do pride themselves on having all the football that matters and being a sports network. So we hope that they listen to their customers, because we know people are upset about it.
I mean, can you imagine a USC game not being no offense to UCLA, but next week a USC game not being available in Southern California?
No, I think
TV.
I think as important as DirecTV is in LA, I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
If they did, I'd be really disappointed, and I'm hopeful that DirecTV changes their posture.
Is there anything more you can do to finesse them?
Well, what we were trying, when we heard them say that our fans, maybe don't care that much, that's when, we put out these messages to fans to say, obviously, your voice is not being heard. And we did the same thing with Dish. And they responded within 48 hours, decided to carry it. So that's really, all we can do at this point in time.
Why, when the announcement was made about Dish, was it portrayed that they were the exclusive satellite provider of the PAC-12 network?
So I think that was probably, I think it was confusing, poorly worded. What I think they should have said more clearly is they got the exclusive sponsorship rights at our venue. So later in the season, you'll see Dish video board signage and announcements. They can call themselves an official sponsor of the Pac-12. But they're definitely not the exclusive satellite. There's no exclusivity when it comes to content. That was poorly worded. I know why it created some confusion.
The playoff meetings next week, are you guys any sooner to figuring out how often the Rose Bowl will host the semifinals?
Yeah, there's several things we got to figure out before we'll know what we do in Pasadena, whether it's 2, 3, or 4 semifinals in the next 12-year period. I think next week we're going to formalize and start work in various subgroups, including revenue sharing, including which sites are going to host the semifinals. We got a TV negotiations group, etc. But there's some key questions that need to be answered, like what happens to Pac-12 and Big Ten teams when they vacate the Rose Bowl to make room for a semifinal? Where do those teams play? Financially, how are they treated? Because you saw we announced the big deal with ESPN. We know what revenue is going to be generated for a traditional Rose Bowl game at the Rose Bowl. So there's a couple of things that need to get figured out until we can answer the question how many there are going to be. I suspect it's going to take several months to work through those details. The first item on the agenda is the TV negotiations. We've got an exclusive period with ESPN coming up in October. But I suspect it'll be several months before we figure out those other things.
So is the contract with ESPN based on not having someone? I mean, for the game, is that based solely on the years? That's not
the Rose Bowl contract with ESPN.
Yeah.
Rose Bowl contract with ESPN is flexible in terms of its 12 games and 2 to 4 of those games will be semifinals. The other games will be a traditional Rose Bowl.